Hello, ladies and boys. For you boys today, it's fantastic. And this, to me, is one of the most important sections because the man that we're going to meet has really changed my life. And I've learned so much from him because he's helped me understand the importance of supplementation and how to really change the energy in your life, which is what this is all about. And we talk about a lot, and I talk about a lot on my social, is how can we feel ageless and energetic? Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Shabir, the co-founder of Victoria Health. Hello, darling. Come and perch.
Thank you so much.
I mean, we've got so much to discuss, and I think we've had this conversation endlessly, and we'll never stop having it, of the very first thing, which is, why on earth do we need to put things inside our body other than food?
In an ideal world, it would be great to get everything from food, obviously. But these days, we've got a lot happening. So we've got modern agricultural practices where our foods are devoid of nutrients because we have pressures of the soybean industry, for example, growing the same crop over and over and again. Stress, because that affects digestion, and of course poor digestion means less absorption of nutrients. There are many factors that affect the availability of nutrients from food. So invariably we should be thinking in terms of supplementation somewhere along the line. I mean, look at what happened to vitamin D 5 years ago, where we were told we were getting enough vitamin D, and then suddenly U-turn, and we're now being told to ingest more vitamin D, especially during the winter months. So it is an ongoing thing, and certainly from supplementation we do need.
Something I learned from you a few years ago was there was always on things we had recommended daily dosage, and those were set so many years ago, weren't they?
Absolutely.
So those benchmarks set in the 50s or something?
Yes, 5 decades and more.
5 decades or more, and our lives have changed, the environment's changed, our stress levels have changed. So looking at what will make us at our optimum is different.
You see, for example, vitamin C was set at 30 milligrams.
30 milligrams.
Only to prevent scurvy.
Okay.
We know that in actual fact, the body requires much more than 30 milligrams of vitamin C, and you're a proponent.
Yeah, I'm up at 3,000. And I read Linus Pauling, but a phenomenal book about vitamin C. But should we start with, I think, what are the essential things? And I want to sort of say 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, but I look at the audience and I'm sort of going to say 30s, 40s, 50s, or 40s, 50s, 60s, or 50s, 60s, 70s. But like, when is it not enough to just take nothing? Or what can we take that we will really notice the difference, Shabir? And then we're going to get on to HRT alternatives.
Okay, You see, the thing is, there has to be a core of supplements which I think are important that you would take throughout the ages, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. You may vary them slightly, and we'll come to that later on. But your core supplements have to be what I consider 4 supplements which are absolutely important. So they're a quality multivitamin, which will give you, think of a multivitamin as an insurance product. I mean, you take out insurance, but you may never need it. But your multivitamin is like an insurance product. You're making sure that in a 24-hour period, you're giving your body all the vitamins that it requires. It may need more vitamin C, for example, but that's to be
you've done it. So Alive, which I've taken for years, actually.
You need four things which I consider. So a quality multivitamin, a probiotic, vitamin D3, according to the World Health Organization, and the 4th one is essential fatty acid.
Okay, so let's do the ones I think people most get confused about. So, because we have probiotic, prebiotic, what does it do? What's the important relationship with our gut? I love our conversations you and I have about our gut and our brain, because it's like, does the gut control the brain or the brain control the gut? So why is it so important, and why should it be a pro or a prebiotic?
Okay, so probiotics, so what are they? They're basically the friendly bacteria in your gut. And we are finding out more and more there are actually 300 plus species in the gut at the moment. There are more bacteria than skin cells.
Okay.
And the thing is, unfortunately, we tend to knock them out quite readily. So processed foods, preservatives on foods, vegetables, for example, have some of them are sprayed chemically, and all these factors destroy the bacteria in our gut. So we need to replenish them from time to time, or
what
on an
happens
ongoing
to
basis.
us when we don't have enough good bacteria? How does it affect our body, Shabir?
Well, first and foremost is your immunity, because 80% of your immunity arises out of your gut. You've got very specific strains of bacteria that work to produce tiny proteins called immunoglobulins, and these send signals for white blood cell counts to rise. So basically, your body is ready to defend itself against any pathogen in the air, virus or whatever the case may be. Obviously, probiotics are involved in the last stage of digestion. So your digestive enzymes break down your food, your stomach acid breaks down your food, your digestive enzymes break down the individual groups like proteins, carbohydrates, etc. And then the last stage of digestion in the colon is through the probiotics. And they themselves manufacture B vitamins. And B vitamins, as you know, are anti-stress vitamins and energizing vitamins. So they're involved in a multitude of processes. They're getting rid of toxins in your body, for example. So they are very important. And crucially, as you mentioned earlier on, which is the gut-brain axis, they are involved in producing serotonin. There is more serotonin produced in the gut than there is.
You all know what serotonin is, yeah? The happy hormone. So if we are 20 and if we're 50, what's the difference in the sort of degenerative aspect of our gut? So how much more important is it for us to take that, a prebiotic, in our 50s than in our 20s?
I think it's important to take it throughout the ages, but certainly as time goes on, you're going to be, well, hopefully not, but our guts do get damaged from all the inflammation that arises as a result of metabolism, as a result of constant acid going in there. So you're always going to get that damage occurring to the gut. But I think probiotics are a must throughout the ages, whether you're in your 20s or in your 50s.
Okay.
Obviously, we tend to, as we age, we produce less digestive enzymes. So that means that we're not digesting our food efficiently. So at least if we've got some probiotics, they're going to be involved in some form of digestion.
And I think something that I hear a lot from women who are perimenopausal and menopausal is, what happened to my stomach? You get that little belly. And that little belly, to me, from what I've learned from you, is that our inability to digest so well, but also it's sugar. And how important is it for us when we're going into menopause to really look at reducing our sugar levels? Because to me, this is, it's one of the hardest things to give up. It could be your wine, or it could be your Peppa Pigs from M&S. For me, it's Peppa Pigs from M&S more than anything else. That processed sugar. When you just have that sort of 3 o'clock, your body's feeling its low level.
The mid-afternoon slump, and you want to...
And you want to do it.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about perimenopausal or menopausal, because there was a time when I was in between having treatment in the UK for menopause, which I hadn't found the right person. And then before I discovered Dr. Erica in America, I met you, and then you gave me this kind of selection of things to take. And I'd love to go through, I don't know if you have it here, but to go through what it is and how, if those, there could be some of you who are already on an HRT journey with your GP, it could be a good one. It could be, from my perspective, I've met many women in the last few days who are on that journey, and some of them are really feeling that they're flushing a lot and everything, and I'm thinking, your prescription is not right, And so it's one thing getting prescribed, but it's another thing that does your GP understand the level, and whether you take bioidentical or body identical depends on what that dosage is like and whether you can tweak the dosage. But if you, for some reason, can't take HRT, or you're just not on it now and you're thinking about it, will you talk us through your whole...
Okay, so let's start off with the fact that the decline in female hormones occurs roughly from mid-30s onwards.
From mid-30s?
Yeah. By the time you reach your 40s, most women will know that there is something not quite right, and they need to consider whether they're going to go eventually onto the HRT route or the bioidentical hormones, for example.
Yeah.
The important thing is, once you've made that decision, and you have to weigh out your family histories, risk factors, and all those sort of things, then you need to speak to your GP as to finding the right HRT for you. Whether you are going to have it compounded, as in bioidenticals, or whether you're going to take those pills from or patches, as the case may be. But many women choose not to go that route, and they will want to go the alternative route, which is basically, they're called phytoestrogens, so they're herbs like sage, hops, etc. They all have they're chemically identical, so they have compounds which are similar, but not quite the same. So they try to fool the body into thinking that it's getting sufficient hormones when it really isn't. but at least you're preventing all the possibilities of hot flushing, night sweats, and all the other problems that arise. Because remember, it's not just one thing. You know, having optimal levels of hormones has an impact on every single gland in the body. So it affects your adrenals, so you could end up with low energy,
Yep.
Low mood. It could affect your thyroid, which eventually would mean you might put on more weight as you go through the menopause and beyond. So having the right balance of female hormones is very important.
Yeah.
And phytoestrogens just simply mimic the female hormones.
So Sage Complex, I remember you gave me. And
That's right,
how did
that's
that
just
work?
that.
Yeah, how did that work, Sage Complex?
So
'Cause that
Sage
was
Complex
for the
is a
flushing.
combination of 7 or 8 herbs,
Yeah.
which work to mimic the female hormones, and so fool the body into thinking that it's got sufficient. There's also some Siberian ginseng to help the adrenals produce their energizing hormones and stabilize cortisol production, because it's cortisol that is involved in depositing fats onto your midriff area.
Yeah. And that cortisol production, that sort of release of that stress hormone, is another reason also for that
Sure.
menopausal tummy, because you're just stress we can't deal with so well. Our body is not, rebounding so quickly, and that just sits there. And I don't know if you notice when you go on holiday, you might feel lighter because the stress has left your body, and so you're not holding on to things. I feel that physical holding on at times. But Magnolia Rhodiola, which is one of my favorites,
Yeah.
because life is about the mood you're in, and it's about feeling good. And when you wake up and there's shit going on around you, some days we're just trying to fight it and deal with it, and other days we want to feel we can embrace it because we feel good enough in ourselves. And I put a lot of that. I love Magnolia Rhodiola. I mean, I inhale it. Well, you know me, I always overdo supplements. But why is it good? What's it doing?
Okay, so
I take it religiously from Shabir without, totally understanding. But yeah, you've told me
many of us are in the phase of what we call adrenal stress. So it's the body's ability to cope with stress. It just can't cope with the stress, ongoing stress. So we have physical stress, emotive stress, and obviously hormonal stress. All of those factors affect the adrenals, and they produce around 40 hormones, but primarily 2 sets of hormones. One is the set for energy, which is adrenaline and noradrenaline, and one is a set of corticosteroids, especially cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So when you have any form of stress, whether it's physical, emotive, or hormonal, the first glands that are affected are the adrenals.
Yeah.
So they start overproducing cortisol, and of course cortisol means, because it's a stress hormone, you end up feeling low mood because it impedes serotonin uptake by the brain. So you start feeling the feelings of low mood, anxiety, panic attacks. It varies according to the individual person. But because the adrenals are producing all these stress hormones, cortisol being one of them, they don't produce sufficient adrenaline, so you also end up with fatigue or just tiredness. It depends. Fatigue is a chronic form of tiredness. And then obviously with that, you've got low inability to concentrate because your cortisol is inflammatory, so it tends to impede the signals in the brain for proper nerve function.
So Shabir is a pharmacist.
Correct.
We're both not practitioners, but I think my following your advice, and I never did, used to do halibut orange. Do you remember, Wiggle, do you remember halibut orange at boarding school?
Yeah.
And then that horrible black treacle stuff they gave us, I can't remember what it was. My sister's at the back there, so I'm trying to remember what that was. And that was my introduction to it. And then over the years, I've seen lots of things, and then there's been so many. It's like skincare. There's so many things you don't know where to start. So I think what would be great now is just, we are also feel it's an intimate place to share. And just, if you'd like to ask Shabir, this is me, I don't know what to do, or what do you think about, this is the time now to do it. So, fire away, who wants to start? Yes, and we might have a mic as well, so everyone can hear, but shout to begin with. Thank you. Yes. What do you
I think I've made my. I think we've talked about this before. So CBD oil was always, as far as science is concerned, CBD oil has antispasmodic activity, so it's a nerve relaxant. Unfortunately, CBD oil is being touted for many, many things beyond that, and I'm not sure that the science exists for the claims that are being made today. Yes, it may have some anti-inflammatory benefits, because obviously it's hemp, and hemp oil does have anti-inflammatory benefits, but it's being touted for everything under the sun, and so I'm very skeptical about all the claims being made.
What do you think about it for sleeping? Because I know a lot of people say it's great, I take some non-TCA or whatever it is for sleeping, but what do you feel about it for that?
I think there's always some THC left behind
Okay.
in CBD oils, even if it is a small percent.
I know you looked at selling it, and
I did.
you didn't in the end.
No.
No.
No. Until the science is there and until the product is good quality. There's been a couple of incidences where CBD oil has been found to contain no CBD at all. It's actually been hemp oil, which is £5 for a litre, and they're selling it to you for £30 for 10 mils or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good, honest answer. Yes.
What did you say you took a lot of for adrenal fatigue? I missed what it was.
Adrenal fatigue.
It was the Magnolia Rhodiola.
Magnolia rhodiola here, which I take 2 in the morning. And it's just what Shabir was talking about with that stress-releasing hormone.
So Magnolia extracts work to reduce cortisol levels in the body and physically relax muscles and nerves. Rhodiola works to enhance energy and increase serotonin uptake. And within that formulation is something called theanine, which is an amino acid from green tea that works to enhance alpha waves, which relax the mind. So you've got something that relaxes the body, elevates the mood, relaxes the mind without any drowsiness.
Yeah. Just come and look at them afterwards. I mean, you can. They're all here, so you can just see. This is what goes inside my body. A lot of it. So we just thought we'd just put them out here. Yeah. Next. Yeah.
Collagen. What is the best way to consume it? Topically or through a pill, supplements?
Oh, the big collagen question.
Yeah.
So many around. Yeah.
Okay, so collagen is a very large molecule, so there is no way you could apply it topically. You could use things topically that might enhance collagen synthesis, but you cannot apply collagen directly onto the skin. It's going to sit on the outside. Internally, there's a lot of debate because collagen, as I said, is a very large molecule, and your gut has very small areas where molecules can go through. Collagen is about 5 times that size. So how are you going to get collagen through? So there are some very innovative products that exist these days. I think Trinny's talked about ingenious collagen, where the collagen has been pre-broken down into peptides, and then protected from the stomach acid, because remember, your stomach acid destroys all the proteins. It breaks everything down. So if you just gave it collagen per se, it would just damage it. So they protect the collagen peptides, the smaller molecules, so that the collagen can get through.
Tell us about, because a lot of women also take absolute collagen, and I want your honest opinion put on the spot here, Shabir. If you looked ingenious and absolute, what are the differences?
I mean, as I said, this is a very pioneering product at the moment.
Yeah.
You've got the best form of collagen in terms of its size. You've got the protection of collagen in terms of making sure it doesn't degrade from the stomach acids. And then you've got the antioxidant protection of astaxanthin together with hyaluronic acid. I think it's a no-brainer.
Ingenious formula. Yeah. Over there? Yep.
Should we all be taking curcumin, turmeric, and in what quantities?
Good one. So just if you describe what it is for those people who don't...
So curcumin is the active component from turmeric powder, from the turmeric powder. All the research is being done on curcumin because it has very powerful antioxidant properties. And if you've got very powerful antioxidants in your body, you're going to protect your cells, your genetic material, etc., etc., etc. So in an ideal world, we could all be taking curcumin, but most scientists agree that when we've gone through our 40s and beyond, we may be thinking of considering of introducing curcumin at that point in time.
What's it doing for us?
It's protecting cells. It's protecting our genetic material. It's involved in calming down inflammation. Remember, inflammation is the most widely accepted theory of aging.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just skin aging. I mean
everything
aging of the
going
body
to be
across the board.
Yeah.
Hello. So you mentioned briefly about links to gut health and mood and depression, and as Trinny says, there's kind of a myriad of things, and it's kind of almost where do you start? So I'm in my mid-30s, and so what would your recommendation be for someone like myself who's on SSRI antidepressants, but regularly takes a probiotic and a multivitamin, what else could I add in? Because I just...
Do you feel what you're taking isn't working?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically. And it's like one of those on and off journeys. And, you know, I think GPs are really quick to prescribe antidepressants.
Yeah.
I work in the wellness industry anyway, so I have like a skepticism and a alliance. So I kind of feel like I sit in the middle, but I just don't know, what's the best recommendation, basically, and where to start.
Okay, so at times of stress, the adrenals, as I said, are under extreme stress and produce cortisol and all the usual stress hormones. But the demand for B vitamins is very high. And often people with stress have low B vitamin levels. So you might want to introduce a quality B vitamin, perhaps a B100 complex, because remember, you could not take Magnolia rhodiola alongside SSRIs. It shouldn't be taken alongside that. So you would carry on with SSRIs, try and introduce a high-strength quality fish oil, because we know fish oils are good from that point of view. Carry on with your probiotic. I hope it's a multi-strain probiotic and not just one strain probiotic or two strains. And then introduce your B vitamins to support the adrenals.
And I think it's always good. I mean, it's harder if you have a great GP and you say, I'd love to have just check my vitamin levels. It's not the test they want to willingly do. Some people have a much more friendly GP than others, but I think, you know, the idea of hormone level checks and what vitamins we have in our body, because some people, you know, vitamin D, when it came out, some people then squirt. My partner went squirt, and suddenly had too much in his body because he was just like, So you've got to really know what's in there before you start supplementing. Yeah. Yes, lady at the back.
Using vitamin C on the face, is it true when you open it after a very short time, you can't...
I'll answer that because...
I think you could answer that.
Vitamin C can be L-ascorbic acid, or it can be ethylated ascorbic acid. And if it's the first, you use ferulic or something to stabilize it in a formulation, which is the one you have at Garden of Wisdom, which is one route you can take. The other route you can take is ethylated, which keeps the stability of the vitamin C. So ours is 30%, but it's ethylated, which means it won't irritate so much on the skin, and it won't change, and it's also in an airtight packaging. I think there are some vitamin Cs that can oxidize in a glass bottle, even though they might have ferulic in them. I'm not going to name ones. I think yours does that less than the competitor that's more expensive than you. And I think you have to just be aware of those a little bit. But it is, you know, a different taking vitamin C, which I love taking, and putting it on your skin, to me, are doing two slightly different things. Because putting it on your skin under an SPF in the day, it sort of takes the hit of sun damage. Because, you know, the damage from sun is the UVA, UVB damage, but there's other environmental damage. And it takes the hit for you, you know, and to an extent can break down pigmentation.
Hello, thank you. Can I ask if you would recommend ashwagandha for lowering cortisol level?
Ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha is a herb that definitely works on the adrenals. It definitely lowers cortisol levels. But most people report back that it takes a lot longer than some of the other supplements.
Yeah.
But it is very safe, yes.
Yeah. Great. Yes.
For bone health, I mean, if you aren't on HRT and you're aging, and there's a lot of talk about, you know, osteoporosis,
yeah,
do
and
you
your mother might
recommend,
have had it.
again, a test, or are there supplements
Absolutely.
that guarantee?
No, I think first and foremost, go and get a test,
Yeah.
a DEXA scan done, because it's important to know where you are
On
at
that
this
scale.
on that scale. Yeah. And then you can decide whether you need to take a calcium supplement. I mean, obviously, you have to look at your family history. Did your mother suffer from osteoporosis, things like that as well? But there are some quality calcium supplements available on the market. Most people forget that vitamin K2 is actually very, very important for bone health, equally as important as calcium is, because it produces a protein called osteocalcin, which takes the calcium and deposits onto the bone framework.
Hi, can you take too many supplements?
I feel my stomach rattle.
I think the important thing is to make sure that there's spaced out throughout the day. I mean, yes, you can. I mean, I've known people to take 20, 30 tablets in one go, and I think, really, I think you need to space them out to make sure that you're not putting a burden on the digestive system.
I had a moment 2 weeks ago where I gobbled them up, and I did training with Natalie in the morning, and I actually knew I was going to throw up in the middle of the live Pilates, and I had just done the vitamin C, and because I hadn't had time to eat something, and it's very good advice.
I think it's just, you know,
it's
common sense that we have to just make sure we space them out.
Yeah, space them out. Yes.
Hi. Vitamin B shots. I remember Trinny had a film, she talked about vitamin B extensively. But lately I have been struggling with energy, and I've been taking different things. So I've tried the vitamin B pill, that's B12. I've tried the spray. I've also tried kind of a drinkable one, which has got a lot of sweetener in it, which is really bad for you, but is delicious. And lately I have been looking at the vitamin B shots, which are slightly, on the expensive scale, but I'm just thinking, how does the body actually absorb it? Which one is the best for you? Is it individual? Do I need to go and test my levels of vitamins? What would you recommend?
I mean, I think it's also about, first of all, it's about why you've got low energy. You've got to figure that out too. So I think having tests is great, but I think it'd be good to talk about what we can take for energy, because we haven't mentioned that Siberian ginseng, which is, but let's talk about that low energy, Shabir.
So again, we come back to the same, why have you got low energy? Is it your adrenals? Is it something that's going, maybe you're just not getting sufficient nutrients from your diet? You have to look at the whole picture before you decide. However, with specific reference to B vitamins, yes, it would be great to get quality amounts, therapeutic amounts of B vitamins into the bloodstream from a spray point of view, sublingually, but invariably the sprays are very low dosages of individual B vitamins. So I think a quality B100 vitamin is the first starting point before you go on to shots or anything else, or injectables, especially injectables. I'm not comfortable with injectables, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Shabir, it's been such a joy. I know you're going to stay on, so those of you who'd like to ask a question privately, Shabir, I know will stay here and do that for a little bit.
Absolutely.
But you are always a fountain of knowledge, and you have such incredible humility about your knowledge, Shabir, and thank you so much for being with us today.